Welcome to the best of the Leon Charney Report. For over 2 decades, Leon Charney, one of the architects of the historic Camp David Peace Accords, has interviewed some of the most important figures in modern-day history. These interviews provide a window into some of the most significant events of the last 50 years. In this excerpt, recorded in November of 2002, Leon Charney speaks with Newsweek's Lally Weymouth. The two talk about Turkey and how that country made the transition from secular to Islamic government, how this relates to the U.S. and how it relates to the Middle East. Transitions which are much like what is happening in the Islamic world today.
Welcome to another Leon Charney Report, and the world is certainly moving around quickly this week. Iraq has said they will accept the UN ultimatum, at least in 7 days, whether they will allow arms inspectors to come in and examine them. Saddam Hussein overruled his parliament. Could you imagine that? He overruled his parliament. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. If Shecky Green and Jackie Mason don't make shtick out of that, I know what'll happen. In any case, we have Lally Weymouth with us, who is, you know, the chief political correspondent for Newsweek and the Washington Post. And she's just come back from visiting a very important country. If we do go to war, we'll discuss that in a minute. But the country is Turkey. Turkey is a secular Muslim state. It's been a great ally to the West. It was a terrific ally during the Gulf War. And they took some hits for it because they lost a lot of revenue. And I was over there right after that. I can tell you personally that they were a little bit offended that they were not treated that well economically. In any case, they have a new party chairman who won the election. And it's a very dangerous position for the country because he's a radical Islamic fundamentalist, basically. Lally will tell you a lot more about it. He's going to deny everything I just said, but let him sue us. Anyway, Lally, welcome back. You jet lagged? You're jet lagged, I think, right?
Hello.
You know, since Ataturk was over there and took Turkey and made it secular, it's been a great, great country.
Absolutely.
And this fellow, I think, was in jail for reading poetry, Islamic poetry. So march me through it. You asked him a number of questions in your, not everybody reads the Washington Post in New York. Newsweek. Well, I hope they do anyway. What was your impression? That's more important. What did you think?
Well, I interviewed Erdogan. First of all, let's just tell our viewers, Mr. Erdogan scored an unexpectedly huge victory in the
Wasn't he the mayor of Istanbul?
He was. And then he founded a party about a year ago called the AK Party. And everyone pretty much expected them, they're an Islamic party, as you suggested. And everyone pretty much suggested and believed they would win the election, but no one believed they would win by the kind of majority they won by. And the interesting thing about their victory is it means that more than Islamists voted for them. Other people from other mainstream parties had to vote for them. And apparently in Turkey it's said that people were so fed up with the corruption of the other parties and the failure of the other parties to rule over the last 10 years and the economic crisis that they've suffered in the last year and a half that they just said, they threw caution to the wind, you might say, and said, let's give this party a chance. They're clean, they're honest, let's try them. And I think we're going to have to wait and see how it turns out.
All right, let's march through him a little bit. You asked him a lot of different questions. He can't become prime minister now because he's constitutionally banned or politically banned, or he was in jail, and I think he just can't be there, right? Who banned him? The Supreme Court over
Well, as you pointed out, I interviewed him when he was mayor of Istanbul about 10 years ago. And he was a real fire eater then, as I actually reminded me.
He's only 48 years old now.
Yeah, but he was a hot, breathing member of the Refah party, which has subsequently been shut down by the army. The Refah party actually came to power, and the army shut the whole party down and kicked it out of office because they thought it was a threat to the secular state, because of various things it did, which really were quite worrying. And it seemed to be going toward imposing Sharia law and it seemed to be moving in the direction of making Turkey an Islamic state. And this the army wanted to prevent. And the army is really the bastion of the secular state, oddly enough, in Turkey. So the army shut down the welfare party. Then the welfare party turned into the so-called virtue party, and that too was shut down by the army. But nevertheless,
But was that why he was banned from holding political office?
he was banned for reading a poem.
No, but he in Futuro, it was a little bit like Arik Sharon could not become defense minister after Sovereign Shatila. Who banned him? I mean, they passed...
The Constitutional Court banned him for reading this poem, which was
holding political office.
Yes, which was considered inflammatory, and there's now actually a court case because he says that he's not a founder of the AK party, the party that just won the victory, that he's chairman but not a founder. And there's actually a court case challenging and threatening to shut down the whole party, which will be heard in a couple of weeks, and I think it won't be shut down. But because of the fact that he is chairman of a political party and he was forbidden to participate in politics, as you suggest. But he's run a very clever campaign.
But can he lead the country? He has to appoint the prime minister unless they change the Constitution.
I think he made it very clear in his interview with me that he wants to be the prime minister. Now, he can't be the prime minister right away. But what I think he's going to do is appoint a man called Abdullah Gül, who speaks perfect English, is an Islamist, was in the Refa party, the same party that was banned before, that came to power before. And I think during that time that he's going to try to change the Constitution, or there are various ways that it could be done, but changing the Constitution is the most likely, in order to make himself prime minister. And then he'll have to become a member of parliament, and he'll have to be voted into Congress. And so it's going to take a few months for him to become prime minister. But I met with Dennis Baikal, who's the head of another party, which is the only party in the opposition now. It's the only party that made it into the parliament. And they have a very high level. It's 10%. It's much higher than in Israel. You have to get 10% of the vote to even get into the parliament. So all the mainstream parties were voted out of power, except for Dennis Baikal's.
The one with that lady who was the prime minister?
Gone.
She's gone?
She's toast.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Chiller.
She had land in New Hampshire, I remember. People didn't like that too much.
Well, she's an example of a person.
Now? She's out of Congress. She's out of everything.
Well, just about about a week ago, yeah.
Wow. She was pretty puppy at one point.
She was prime minister.
Yeah,
and so
the United States liked
no,
it
but
too.
that's what I mean. No one expected these parties to completely not make the 10% level, and she got, I think, 9.5% as a good example. She almost made it to parliament, but she's gone, and her party is gone. So Dennis Baikal is the leader of the Republican People's Party, which is in parliament.
Wow.
And he told me that he's going to help Erdogan change the constitution because he believes that he won the election. As Erdogan said to me, I won, the people spoke, and that he should be prime minister.
All right, so what happens
Because otherwise you're going to have this kind of kabuki, dance with Erdogan.
It's very dangerous.
Because I asked him, what would happen if a leading U.S. official came to Turkey? Who would he meet with, you or the prime minister? Because it's obvious Erdogan's going to be the man calling the shots. So, is the U.S. official going to meet with some guy that's a named prime minister? And then he said, well, an official could meet with the prime minister, and then he could meet with the head of the most powerful political party, as he put it, if he wanted to.
It's very dangerous. It's really dangerous because Turkey is such a strong and important country out there, and it's really been it's also been a great friend of Israel. I was instrumental in moving that years ago with Weitzman, the president. In your interview, you asked him about that, and he said that it'll stay. He's not an anti-Semite. That's what he told you. That's what
he said. But on the other hand, you'll notice he's talked about state terrorism, and he meant Israel, of course. And he's actually busy calling Israel's actions state terrorism.
In modern Middle East history, only one peace treaty has stood the test of time, the 1978 Camp David Accord. In the new documentary film, Backdoor Channels, The Price of Peace, learn the true story behind the greatest diplomatic achievement of our time and its lessons for the future.
The price of peace is very high to have this courageous man and my close friend killed.
Winner of the Telly Award for Best Cultural Program. Now available at select stores including Barnes & Noble and online at Amazon.com. The preceding program was brought to you by Backdoor Channels, The Price of Peace.